I'm Mr. Midnight Horror, your chilling host, and you're about to hear that story in today's terrifying tale. Tonight, I've got a brutal and unexplained encounter featuring a werewolf stalking an isolated farm, vicious attacks that left bodies torn apart, and a horror that refuses to die. If you're already part of our community, your support means the world to us. Each like, comment, and share helps uncover more stories like this. Or subscribe to see what rises from the depths of darkness and unfolds before you. Now, let's begin. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who'd lose sleep over dead chickens. But when you run a farm 30 miles outside Phoenix, Arizona, every animal matters. Every loss cuts into your bottom line. And when something starts killing your livestock, you don't just shrug it off. It started 3 weeks ago. I woke up to find 2 hens missing from the coop. The door was still latched, no signs of forced entry. I figured maybe I'd miscounted the night before. Stress does that to you. Running a farm solo after my brother moved to Tucson leaves you exhausted most days. But then it happened again. And again. By the end of the first week, I'd lost 8 chickens. Not stolen, killed. I found feathers scattered across the dirt, streaks of blood leading toward the scrubland behind my property. Whatever was doing this wasn't interested in a quiet meal. It was tearing them apart. I called my neighbor, Frank Dietrich, who owned the spread 2 miles west. He'd been farming this land for 40 years, knew every predator that prowled the Arizona desert. "Coyotes," he said, barely looking up from his coffee. "They get bold this time of year." "Coyotes don't rip through chain link fencing," I told him. He paused then, set his mug down. "Show me." We drove out in my truck, dust kicking up behind us as we headed back to my property. The fence around the chicken coop was 8 feet of chain link, reinforced at the base to keep diggers out. But when Frank saw it, even he went quiet. 3 sections were torn apart. Not cut, not dug under. Torn. The metal was twisted outward like something had grabbed it with both hands and ripped it open. The edges were jagged, some parts still curled inward where whatever did this had squeezed through. "That ain't no coyote," Frank muttered. "Then what is it?" He didn't answer right away, just stood there, staring at the fence, then at the blood-soaked dirt inside the coop. Finally, he shook his head. "Don't know, but you better get yourself a gun and start keeping watch at night." I already had guns, rifles, a shotgun, a pistol I kept in the house, but I'd never had to use them for anything other than target practice and the occasional rattlesnake. The idea of sitting out here in the dark, waiting for something to show up, made my stomach turn. But Frank was right. If I didn't do something, I'd lose everything. That night, I set up a chair inside the barn with a clear view of the coop. I had my Remington shotgun across my lap, a flashlight duct taped to the barrel. The desert gets cold at night, even in September. I wrapped a blanket around my shoulders and settled in. The first hour was uneventful. Crickets chirped. A breeze rattled the barn doors. I could hear the chickens shifting around inside the coop, clucking softly in their sleep. By the second hour, my eyes were getting heavy. I stood up, paced around, anything to stay awake. I checked my phone. No signal out here, never was. Just me and the dark. Then I heard it. A low sound, like something dragging across gravel. I froze, listening. It came again, closer this time. Not footsteps, more like claws scraping against stone. I raised the shotgun, clicked on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the dirt road leading up to the coop. Nothing. Just empty space and shadows. But the sound didn't stop. It was moving around the perimeter of the property, circling. I could hear it in the brush, low and deliberate. Whatever it wasn't in a hurry. It was hunting. I stepped out of the barn, keeping the shotgun raised. My heart hammered in my chest. Every instinct told me to go back inside, lock the doors, wait until morning. But if I didn't confront this now, it would keep coming back. "Hey!" I shouted into the dark. "Get out of here!" The scraping stopped. Silence. I swept the flashlight across the scrubland, moving slowly. Rocks, bushes, patches of dry grass. Nothing moved, but I could feel it. Something was out there, watching me. Then I saw the eyes. 2 yellow points of light, low to the ground, about 50 yards out. They didn't blink, didn't move, just stared. I tightened my grip on the shotgun. "Last warning!" I called out, my voice shakier than I wanted. The eyes didn't flinch. And then they were gone. Not like they ran away, they just vanished. 1 second they were there, the next, nothing. I stood there for another 10 minutes, scanning the area, but whatever it was had disappeared. I didn't sleep that night. Kept the shotgun next to my bed, every creak and groan of the house making me jump. By the time the sun came up, I was exhausted and rattled. I checked the coop at first light. All the chickens were still there, alive and untouched. The fence was intact. No new damage. But when I walked around the property, I found something that made my blood run cold. Footprints, not paw prints, not coyote tracks. Footprints, human-shaped but wrong, too large. The toes were elongated, clawed. And they were deep, pressed into the hard dirt like whatever made them weighed a hell of a lot more than any person should. I followed the tracks. They led from the scrubland, circled the coop, then headed back out toward the hills. I stopped at the edge of my property line, staring out at the vast stretch of desert beyond. Something was living out there, something that walked on 2 legs. And it was coming back. I spent the next day reinforcing the fence. Bought steel cables from the hardware store in town, wrapped them around the chain link sections, added padlocks to every gate. If something wanted to get in, it would have to make noise doing it. While I was in town, I stopped by the sheriff's office. Deputy Craig Hernandez was behind the desk, scrolling through his phone. He looked up when I walked in. "Help you?" he asked. "Yeah, I've been having trouble out at my place. Something's been killing my chickens." He leaned back in his chair. "Coyotes?" That's what I thought. But I found tracks, human tracks, big ones. Hernandez frowned. "You think someone's messing with your property?" I don't know what to think, but the tracks don't look normal, and my fence was torn apart. Metal, not wood. He grabbed a notepad, jotted something down. "I can send someone out tomorrow. Take a look." Tomorrow might be too late. Best I can do. We're stretched thin right now. Had a missing person case pop up yesterday. Guy named Tim Kowalski works at the feed supply off Route 60. Didn't show up for his shift. Wife says he never came home. I felt a chill run through me. When did he go missing? Sometime Friday night. Last anyone saw him, he was driving home from work. Friday night. The same night I saw those eyes in the dark. "You think it's connected?" I asked. Hernandez shrugged. "Don't know yet. Could be he took off. Could be something else. We're checking with family, friends. If you see anything unusual, give us a call." I left the station feeling worse than when I arrived. A missing man. Torn fences. Strange tracks. None of it made sense, but it all felt wrong. When I got back to the farm, Frank was waiting for me. He was standing by his truck, arms crossed, staring at the hills. "You hear about Tim Kowalski?" he asked. "Yeah, deputy told me." Frank spat into the dirt. "That boy didn't just take off. Something got him." "You don't know that." "I know this land. I know when something's out there that shouldn't be." He turned to face me. "You see those tracks?" I nodded. I saw tracks like that once before. Long time ago, back in '73. Whole string of livestock killings lasted about 2 months. Ranchers lost cattle, horses, goats. Whatever it was moved fast, hit different properties every few nights. Never left much behind except blood and those damn tracks. What stopped it? Frank's jaw tightened. It didn't stop. Just disappeared. No one ever figured out what it was. Most folks convinced themselves it was some big cat, maybe a mountain lion that wandered down from up north. But I saw the tracks back then, same as I'm seeing now. Wasn't no cat. Then what was it? He didn't answer. Just looked at me like he was waiting for me to figure it out on my own. You think it's back, I said. I think something's back. Whether it's the same thing or not, I don't know. But you better be ready for it. That night, I set up my watch again. This time I brought a thermos of coffee, an extra flashlight, and my rifle in addition to the shotgun. I wasn't taking chances. The desert was quieter than usual. No crickets, no breeze, just stillness. I checked my watch. 11:30. The chickens were silent inside the coop, which wasn't normal. Usually they shuffled around, made soft noises. But tonight, nothing. Then I heard it again. That scraping sound. Closer this time. I stood, raising the rifle. My hands were steadier than the night before, but my pulse was racing. The sound was coming from the east side of the property, near the old irrigation ditch. I moved toward it, keeping my steps light. The flashlight beam swept across the ground. I saw the tracks immediately, fresh ones, leading right toward the coop. And then I saw it, a shape, hunched low, moving along the fence line. It was massive, easily 7 feet tall even in its crouched position. Its body was covered in dark fur, matted and coarse. The arms were long, too long, ending in hands that looked more like claws. It stopped, turned its head toward me. I saw its face. It wasn't human. The snout was elongated, wolfish, but the eyes were too intelligent, too aware. They locked onto mine, and I felt every nerve in my body scream at me to run. But I didn't. I raised the rifle, aimed center mass, and fired. The shot echoed across the desert. The creature jerked backward, stumbled, then let out a sound I'll never forget. Not a howl, not a growl. Something between a roar and a scream, guttural and wet. It didn't go down. Instead, it turned and ran. Not on all fours like an animal, on 2 legs like a man. It moved fast, faster than anything that size should be able to move. Within seconds, it had disappeared into the scrubland. I stood there, shaking, the rifle still raised. Blood pounded in my ears. My breath came in short, ragged gasps. I'd hit it. I knew I had. But it didn't matter. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't going to die easy. I didn't go after it. Every instinct told me that chasing that thing into the dark would be suicide. Instead, I backed toward the barn, keeping the rifle up, scanning the scrubland for any sign of movement. Nothing. I waited there for another hour, maybe 2. My legs ached from standing. My hands cramped around the rifle. But I didn't move. Didn't lower my guard. When the first light of dawn started creeping over the hills, I finally allowed myself to breathe. I walked to where the creature had been standing. The ground was torn up, deep gouges in the dirt where its claws had dug in. And there was blood, dark, almost black, pooling in the dust. I crouched down, careful not to touch it. It smelled wrong, not like animal blood. Sharper, metallic but with an edge of rot underneath. I followed the blood trail. It led out past the fence, into the desert. I stopped at the property line, staring out at the endless stretch of rock and brush. The trail continued, vanishing into the distance. I pulled out my phone. Still no signal. I'd have to drive into town to call the sheriff. But what would I even say? That I shot a 7-foot-tall wolf creature? That it ran off on 2 legs? They'd think I'd lost my mind. Hell, maybe I had. I went back to the house, locked every door and window, and sat at the kitchen table with the shotgun across my lap. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept replaying the moment in my head, the way it looked at me, the intelligence in those eyes. This wasn't some rabid animal. This was something else entirely. Around 8 in the morning, Frank showed up. He knocked hard on the door, called my name. I let him in. "You look like hell," he said. I saw it. His expression changed. "Saw what?" "The thing that's been killing my chickens. It came back last night. I shot it." Frank went still. "You shot it?" "Center mass. It didn't go down, just ran off." He stared at me for a long moment, then walked to the window, looking out at the property. "Show me." We went out together. I showed him the tracks, the blood, the torn-up ground. He crouched down, examining the claw marks, then stood and followed the blood trail just like I had. "You're sure you hit it?" he asked. "I'm sure." He nodded slowly. "Then it's hurt. Hurt animals are dangerous. They get desperate." "That wasn't an animal, Frank." He looked at me, his face grim. "No, it wasn't." "You know what it is, don't you?" Frank hesitated. For a moment I thought he might deny it. But then he sighed, rubbed his face with both hands. "There's stories," he said. "Old stories. My grandfather used to tell them. Said there were things out in the desert that didn't belong. Things that could change shape, walk like men but hunt like wolves." "You're talking about werewolves." He flinched at the word. "Call it what you want. All I know is what I saw back in '73, and what you're describing sounds exactly the same. So what do? "We kill it," Frank said, "before it kills someone else." I thought about Tim Kowalski, the missing man, the one who never made it home. "You think it already has?" I said. Frank didn't answer. He didn't have to. We spent the rest of the morning preparing. Frank went back to his place and returned with more guns, ammunition, and a spotlight he used for hunting. We set up a perimeter around the coop, rigged motion sensors to lights, anything that would give us a warning if something approached. "It'll come back," Frank said. "They always do. Once they've marked a place as hunting ground, they don't leave until the food runs out or something kills them." "How do you kill something like that?" "Same way you kill anything else. Enough bullets in the right places." But I could see the doubt in his eyes. He didn't believe it would be that simple. As the sun set, we took our positions. Frank was inside the barn with a hunting rifle. I was on the roof of the house with a clear view of the entire property. We had radios to communicate, though I wasn't sure how much good they'd do if things went wrong. The desert grew dark. Stars appeared overhead, bright and cold. I could see the lights of Phoenix in the distance, a faint glow on the horizon. Out here, it felt like a different world, isolated, forgotten. The motion lights stayed off. Hours passed. My legs went numb from sitting in the same position. I was starting to think maybe it wouldn't come back. Maybe the gunshot had scared it off for good. Then the first light triggered. It was on the east side, near the irrigation ditch. Frank's voice crackled over the radio. "I see it." My heart jumped into my throat. "Where?" "Moving along the fence. It's testing the perimeter." I scanned the area, saw the shape moving in the shadows. It was slower tonight, more cautious. The wound must have slowed it down. "Do we shoot?" I asked. "Not yet. Let it get closer." Another light triggered, then another. It was circling the property, just like before, but this time, it stopped. Right in front of the coop. It stood there, fully illuminated by the motion lights. I could see every detail, the thick fur, the elongated limbs, the way its chest heaved with each breath. and then it looked directly at me. Those yellow eyes locked onto mine, and I felt the same primal terror I'd felt the night before. But this time, I didn't flinch. I raised the rifle. "Now," Frank said over the radio. We fired simultaneously. The shots rang out like thunder across the desert. Both bullets hit. I saw the creature jerk backward, dark blood spraying from its shoulder and side. It roared, that same wet, guttural sound, and dropped to one knee. But it didn't fall. Frank fired again. The bullet struck its leg, tearing through muscle. The creature stumbled, claws digging into the dirt for balance. I could see the rage in its eyes, the pure animal fury. And then it moved. It didn't retreat. It charged. Straight toward the barn where Frank was positioned. "Frank, it's coming at you!" I shouted into the radio. I heard him swear, then the rapid crack of gunfire. 3 shots, 4. The creature didn't slow down. It hit the barn door with enough force to splinter the wood, tearing through it like paper. I scrambled down from the roof, nearly falling off the ladder in my rush. My hands were slick with sweat, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst. I could hear crashing inside the barn, Frank yelling, more gunshots. I ran. The barn door hung off its hinges. Inside was chaos. Equipment was overturned, tools scattered across the floor. I saw Frank backed into a corner, his rifle raised, firing point blank at the creature. It barely seemed to notice. The thing backhanded him. Just a casual swipe of one massive arm. Frank flew backward, hit the wall, and crumpled. His rifle clattered to the ground. The creature turned toward me. I didn't think. I just pulled the trigger. The shotgun blast caught it in the chest, close range. The impact drove it back a step, blood and tissue exploding from the wound. It snarled, lunged at me, and I dove to the side. Its claws raked across my back as I moved, tearing through my jacket and into flesh. Pain exploded through me, white-hot and blinding. I hit the ground hard, rolled, came up firing again. This time I aimed for its head. The shot took off part of its jaw. Bone and teeth went flying. The creature screamed, a horrible wet sound, and staggered. Blood poured from its face, black and thick, but it still didn't go down. I backed toward Frank, keeping the shotgun raised. He was conscious, barely, blood running down his face from a gash on his forehead. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. The creature was hunched over, one hand pressed to its ruined jaw. It was breathing hard, each exhale a ragged wheeze. For a moment, I thought maybe we'd done enough damage. Maybe it would retreat. Then it looked at me again, and I saw something worse than rage in those eyes. Hunger. It dropped to all fours and lunged. I fired. The shotgun clicked empty. The creature hit me like a freight train. We went down together, crashing through the barn door and out into the dirt. Its weight crushed the air from my lungs. I could smell it, that rotten meat stench mixed with blood and wet fur. Its claws pinned my shoulders. I felt them pierce through fabric and skin, scraping against bone. I screamed, tried to buck it off, but it was too strong, way too strong. It lowered its head, jaws opening wide despite the damage. I could see straight through the hole where its jaw used to be, see the ruined mess of muscle and tongue inside. This was it. This was how I died. Then I heard the roar of an engine. Headlights flooded the area. A truck came barreling across the property, kicking up dust and gravel. It hit the creature at full speed. The impact sent it flying. 1 second it was on top of me, the next it was airborne, tumbling across the dirt. The truck skidded to a stop and I heard a door slam. Deputy Hernandez ran over, gun drawn. "Don't move!" he shouted. But he wasn't talking to me. The creature was already getting up. Even after being shot multiple times and hit by a truck, it was still moving. Blood poured from its wounds, matting its fur, pooling beneath it. But it pushed itself to its feet, swaying, teeth bared. Hernandez opened fire. 6 shots, center mass, professional grouping. The creature roared one last time, then turned and ran. It moved slower now, limping, dragging one leg. But it still moved. Within seconds, it had disappeared into the darkness beyond the property. Hernandez lowered his gun, breathing hard. What the hell was that? I tried to answer, but the pain finally caught up with me. My back was on fire, my shoulders bleeding freely. The world started to tilt. "Hey, stay with me," Hernandez said, kneeling beside me. He pulled out his radio. "This is Deputy Hernandez. I need 2 ambulances at the Garrett farm, Route 85, mile marker 12. Multiple injuries, and send backup. Something's out here, something dangerous." Frank was stirring inside the barn. Hernandez went to help him while I lay there in the dirt, staring up at the stars. I'd shot that thing 5 times. Frank had hit it at least 4. Hernandez another 6. And a truck had slammed into it at 40 miles per hour. And it was still alive, still out there. The ambulances arrived 20 minutes later. Paramedics loaded Frank and me onto gurneys, started IVs, bandaged our wounds. The whole time, Hernandez was on his radio, calling in more deputies, talking to someone about organizing a search. As they loaded me into the ambulance, I grabbed his arm. "It's not going to stop," I said. "We'll find it," Hernandez replied. "It's injured. Can't have gone far." "You don't understand. That thing isn't just an animal. It thinks. It plans." He frowned. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying shooting it isn't enough. You need to kill it, and you need to do it before it heals." "Before it heals?" I didn't have the strength to explain. The paramedic was pushing something into my IV, and everything started to go fuzzy. The last thing I heard before I passed out was Hernandez on the radio, his voice tight. "I need someone to pull the traffic cam footage from Route 60 Friday night, and check if any hospitals have treated unusual wounds in the last 48 hours. We might have a pattern here." Then everything went black. I woke up in a hospital room, white walls, beeping machines, the smell of antiseptic. My back and shoulders were wrapped in bandages, and every movement sent sharp pain through my body. Frank was in the bed next to me. His head was bandaged, his arm in a sling. He was awake, staring at the ceiling. "You look as bad as I feel," I said. He turned his head slowly. "They're saying it was a bear." "What?" "The deputies, the doctors. They're all saying we were attacked by a bear, that it must have wandered down from the mountains, got confused, aggressive." I sat up despite the pain. "That wasn't a bear." "I know that. You know that. But they don't want to hear it." He gestured to the window. Outside, I could see news vans parked in the hospital lot. "It's already on the news. Bear attack near Phoenix. They're talking about increasing wildlife patrols, warning people to stay inside at night." "What about Tim Kowalski?" Frank's expression darkened. "They found him this morning, or what was left of him, about 5 miles from your property in a ravine. Medical examiner is calling it an animal attack." "Bear attack, of course." "Of course," I said bitterly. The door opened. Deputy Hernandez walked in, looking exhausted. He had dark circles under his eyes, and his uniform was wrinkled like he'd been wearing it for days. "How are you two holding up?" he asked. "We've been better," Frank said. "You catch that thing yet?" Hernandez pulled up a chair, sat down heavily. "We tracked it for about 3 miles, found a blood trail, lots of it. But then it just stopped, like it vanished." "It didn't vanish," I said. "It's hiding, waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For us to stop looking." Hernandez rubbed his face. "Look, I know what I saw out there. That thing wasn't normal. But my captain, the sheriff, everyone above me is pushing the bear narrative. They don't want panic. Don't want people thinking there's some kind of monster running around." "There is a monster running around," Frank said. "I know." Hernandez leaned forward. "That's why I'm here. Off the record, I want to know everything. What you saw, when it started, any details you can remember." So we told him everything. The missing chickens, the torn fence, the tracks, the night I first saw it, the attack, all of it. When we finished, Hernandez was quiet for a long moment. "You know how crazy this sounds," he finally said. "We know," I replied, "but it's the truth." He pulled out a folder, opened it. Inside were photos, crime scene photos. I recognized the location immediately. The ravine where they'd found Tim Kowalski. "Don't look if you don't want to," Hernandez warned. I looked anyway. I wished I hadn't. What was left of Tim Kowalski barely looked human. His body was torn apart, limbs twisted at unnatural angles. His chest was ripped open, ribs exposed. The ground around him was soaked black with blood. "Medical examiner said the wounds are consistent with a large predator," Hernandez said. "Claws, teeth, the whole package. But there's something else." He pulled out another photo. A close-up of one of the wounds on Kowalski's neck. "These marks here. The ME says they look like bite marks. But the spacing, the depth, they're not consistent with any known animal in Arizona." "Because it's not a known animal," Frank said. Hernandez closed the folder. "There's more. We pulled security footage from a gas station on Route 60, about 2 miles from where Kowalski was found. Friday night, around 10 p.m., something ran across the parking lot. Cameras caught it for maybe 3 seconds. He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, turned it toward us. The footage was grainy, black and white, but you could see it clearly. A large shape, moving on 2 legs, crossing from the desert into the parking lot and back out again. It moved fast, too fast for the camera to capture details, but the silhouette was unmistakable. "That's it," I said. "That's what attacked us." Hernandez pocketed his phone. "I showed this to my captain. He said it's a person in a costume, some kind of prank. But I don't think people in costumes tear apart livestock and kill ranch workers." "So what do we do?" I asked. "We kill it," Hernandez said, quietly, "before it kills someone else. I can't get official support, but I can organize something off the books. A few deputies I trust, some locals who know how to handle themselves. We track it down, we end this." "You make it sound simple," Frank said. "That thing took 15 bullets and a truck to the face, and it still got away." "Then we bring more bullets," Hernandez replied, "and we don't stop shooting until it's dead." I looked at Frank. He looked back at me. Neither of us said anything, but we didn't have to. We both knew we were in. "When do we start?" I asked. "Tomorrow night. I'll have everything ready by then. Guns, ammo, radios, floodlights. We'll set up a perimeter in the area where the blood trail ended. It's got to have a den somewhere nearby. If we can find it while it's resting, we'll have the advantage." "And if we don't find it?" Frank asked. Hernandez stood. "Then we wait, and hope it comes to us before it finds someone else." He left, and Frank and I sat in silence. "You think this'll work?" Frank finally asked. "I think we don't have a choice," I said. That night I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those yellow eyes staring back at me. Felt the weight of the creature on top of me, its claws digging into my shoulders. Smelled that rotten meat stench. The doctors wanted to keep me for observation, but I checked myself out the next morning. Frank did the same. We were both bandaged, bruised, moving slower than usual. But we could move. We could fight. And that was all that mattered. By the time we regrouped at my farm the next evening, Hernandez had assembled a team. 6 people total, including me and Frank. There was Hernandez, of course. Two other deputies, Marcus Webb, a younger guy with a military background, and Sarah Chen, who'd been with the department for 10 years and had a reputation for being unshakable. Then there was a local rancher named Dale Morrison, who'd lost 3 head of cattle to something 2 nights ago. We gathered in my barn. The door had been replaced, but you could still see the claw marks gouged into the wooden frame. Hernandez spread a map across the workbench. "We tracked the blood trail to here," he said, pointing to a spot about 4 miles northeast. "Old mining area, lots of caves and abandoned structures. If it's denned up somewhere, that's where it'll be." "How do you want to approach it?" Webb asked. 2 teams, Webb and Chen. You take the southern approach. Morrison and Frank, you've got the north. I'll go in from the west with Garrett. We use radios, stay in constant contact. Anyone sees anything, you call it in immediately. Do not engage alone. "What if it runs?" Chen asked. "Then we track it, and we don't stop until it's dead." Hernandez looked at each of us in turn. "I'm not going to lie to you. This thing is dangerous. It's killed at least 2 people that we know of, probably more. It's fast, it's strong, and it doesn't go down easy. But it's also injured. We have the advantage of numbers and firepower. We stay smart, we stay together. We can end this." Everyone nodded. We loaded up the trucks and headed out. The sun was just starting to set, painting the desert in shades of orange and red. Under different circumstances, it might have been beautiful. But all I could think about was what was waiting for us in those caves. The mining area was a relic from the early 1900s. Rusted equipment scattered across the landscape, wooden support beams rotting into the ground, and everywhere, dark openings leading down into the earth. We split up as planned. Webb and Chen disappeared around the southern ridge. Morrison and Frank headed north. Hernandez and I started west. The terrain was rough, all loose rock and thorny brush. My shoulders ached with every step, the bandages pulling at my skin. But I kept moving. Hernandez had a high-powered flashlight, sweeping it across the ground as we walked. "There," he said, pointing. "More tracks. The same elongated clawed prints I'd seen at my farm. They led toward one of the larger cave entrances. "Everyone, this is Hernandez," he said into the radio. "We've got tracks leading into the main shaft on the west side, moving to investigate." "Copy that," Webb's voice crackled back. "We're in position on the south. North side clear so far," Morrison added. Hernandez and I approached the cave entrance carefully. The opening was about 8 feet high, jagged rock on all sides. The tracks led straight inside, disappearing into darkness. I could smell it before we even entered. That same rotten meat stench, but stronger now. Concentrated. "It's definitely in there," I whispered. Hernandez nodded, pulled out his gun. I raised my rifle. We moved inside. The cave was larger than I expected, opening into a wide chamber. Our flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing rock walls covered in scratches and gouges, and blood. Lots of it. Dried and crusted on the ground, splattered across the walls. In the center of the chamber was a pile of bones. Cow bones mostly, but mixed in were other things. Smaller bones. I didn't want to think about what they might be. "Jesus," Hernandez muttered. Then we heard it, a low growl echoing from deeper in the cave. "It's here," I said into the radio. "Main shaft, west side. It's—" The growl turned into a roar. The creature exploded from a side tunnel we hadn't seen. It moved so fast I barely had time to register it was there, before it was on us. Hernandez fired first. 3 shots, rapid succession. The creature jerked with each impact, but didn't slow. It barreled into him, sending him flying backward into the cave wall. His flashlight shattered, plunging half the chamber into darkness. I fired. working the bolt action as fast as I could. 1 shot, 2, 3. The creature turned toward me, and I saw its face. The damage from our last encounter was still there. The ruined jaw, hanging loose and misshapen. One eye was swollen shut, infected looking. But the other eye blazed with fury. It lunged at me. I dove to the side, felt its claws whistle past my head. My rifle clattered away into the darkness. "All units, we're engaged," I shouted into the radio. "West side, main shaft. We need backup now." The creature circled me, moving with a limp but still faster than I could track. I pulled my pistol, fired blindly. 1 shot connected, hitting its shoulder. It barely flinched. Hernandez was back on his feet, firing again. The creature roared, turned toward him, and that's when I saw it. A metal spike, part of the old mining equipment, jutting from the ground. I ran at the creature, putting everything I had into it. I hit it low, driving my shoulder into its side. It was like hitting a brick wall, but the surprise was enough. We both went down, tumbling toward the spike. The creature tried to twist away, but momentum carried us forward. The spike punched through its back, erupting from its chest in a spray of black blood. It screamed, not a roar this time. A scream of pure agony. I rolled away, gasping for air. The creature thrashed, trying to pull itself off the spike, but it was stuck. Every movement drove the metal deeper. Hernandez ran over, gun raised. "Don't move!" But the creature kept thrashing. Its claws raked the ground, tearing up rock and dirt. Blood poured from the wound, pooling around the spike. And then, slowly, it stopped moving. The remaining eye stared at nothing. The chest stopped heaving. It was dead. Footsteps echoed through the cave. Webb and Chen came running in, guns drawn. Morrison and Frank appeared a moment later. Everyone stopped, staring at the creature impaled on the spike. "Is it dead?" Chen asked. Hernandez approached cautiously, checked for a pulse. After a moment, he nodded. "It's dead." No one spoke. We just stood there, looking at the thing that had terrorized the area for weeks. In death, it looked smaller somehow. Still massive, still terrifying, but less. Just meat and fur and bone. "What do we do with it?" Webb finally asked. "We document it," Hernandez said. "Photos, measurements, everything. Then we burn it. No one can know about this. Ever." We spent the next hour doing exactly that. Taking photos from every angle, measuring the creature, bagging samples. The whole time, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. "Look at this," Frank said. He was examining the creature's hands. The claws were retracted now, but the fingers looked almost human underneath. The bone structure was wrong, elongated and twisted, but there was definitely something human there. "You think it used to be a person?" Morrison asked. "I don't know," Frank replied. "But I think we just killed something that was more than just an animal." We burned the body at dawn. Used diesel fuel and let it burn until there was nothing left but ash and blackened bone. Then we buried what remained and covered the site with rocks. The official report called it a bear, a large, aggressive bear that had been put down by wildlife services. Tim Kowalski's death was attributed to the same animal. Case closed. But I knew the truth, and I knew I'd never forget those yellow eyes. 3 weeks passed. My wounds healed slowly, leaving thick scars across my back and shoulders. Frank recovered faster, but I could see the nightmares in his eyes every time we talked. Neither of us slept well anymore. The farm went back to normal, or as normal as it could be. I replaced the fence, reinforced the coop, got new chickens. Life continued. But every night, when the sun went down, I found myself watching the desert, waiting, Deputy Hernandez stopped by one afternoon. He looked better than the last time I'd seen him, less exhausted. But there was still something haunted in his expression. "Wanted to check in," he said. "See how you're doing." "No, still breathing," I replied. "That counts for something." We sat on the porch, drinking coffee, watching the sun dip toward the horizon. "You ever wonder if we got the right one?" Hernandez asked suddenly. The question hung in the air between us. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if there's more than one?" He stared out at the desert. "What if that thing wasn't alone?" I'd had the same thought. Late at night, when I couldn't sleep, I'd wondered. The stories Frank's grandfather told him. The killings back in '73. How they just stopped. No explanation. "I don't know," I said honestly. Hernandez finished his coffee, set the mug down. "I've been looking into it. Old reports, newspaper archives, anything I could find. There's been similar incidents every 30, 40 years going back over a century. Livestock killings, missing people, always in this same general area. And they always end the same way. Suddenly. No resolution." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we didn't end anything. Maybe we just interrupted a cycle." He stood, walked to his patrol car. Before getting in, he turned back to me. "Keep your guns close," he said. "And if you see anything at all, you call me immediately." He drove off, leaving me alone on the porch. I sat there until the stars came out. The desert was quiet, peaceful. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching from the darkness beyond my property. That night, I dreamed of yellow eyes. And when I woke up, there were new tracks in the dirt outside my bedroom window. I didn't tell anyone about the tracks. Not Frank, not Hernandez. Part of me wanted to believe I'd imagined them, that the stress, the trauma, had made me see things that weren't there. But I knew better. The tracks were real, fresh, made sometime during the night while I slept. I spent the day reinforcing everything again. New locks on the doors, bars on the windows. I even installed motion sensor cameras around the property, covering every angle. If something came back, I'd see it coming. Frank showed up around noon. He looked worse than usual, his face drawn and pale. "You look like hell," I said. "I need to show you something," he replied. We drove to his property in silence. When we got there, he led me to his cattle pen. 3 cows were dead, not just dead, slaughtered. The same brutal carnage I'd seen at my place weeks ago. Throats torn open, bodies ripped apart, blood soaking into the dirt. "When did this happen?" I asked. "Last night? I heard something around 2 a.m., came out with my rifle, but by the time I got here, whatever it was had already gone." I crouched down, examining the wounds, deep claw marks, bite patterns that were all too familiar. "You think it's back," Frank said. It wasn't a question. I know it is. We buried the cows that afternoon. Didn't report it. Didn't call anyone. What would we say? That the thing we'd killed 3 weeks ago had somehow come back. But as we worked, I couldn't stop thinking about what Hernandez had said. About cycles. About this happening before. What if we hadn't killed the creature at all? What if we just wounded it badly enough that it had to retreat, heal, wait, or worse? What if there had always been more than one? That night I sat in my living room with every light on, shotgun across my lap, watching the security camera feeds on my laptop. The property was quiet. Nothing moved except the occasional desert breeze stirring the brush. At 11:30, the camera on the east side went dark. Then the one on the north. One by one, the feeds cut out until I was staring at a screen full of static. My phone rang. Frank. "You seeing this?" he asked. "Something's cutting the cameras." "Same here. Mine just went dead. Call Hernandez. Already did. He's on his way. Said to stay inside, don't go out for anything. I hung up, moved to the window. The floodlights were still on, illuminating the yard. But beyond their reach, the desert was pitch black. And then I saw movement. Not one shape, multiple shapes, moving along the property line, staying just outside the light. I counted at least 3, maybe 4. All of them massive. All of them moving on 2 legs. Oh God, I whispered. My phone rang again, Hernandez this time. I'm 10 minutes out, he said. Webb and Chen are coming too. Whatever you do, stay inside. There's more than one, I told him. I can see at least 4 of them circling the property. Silence on the other end. Then 4. Maybe more. They're staying in the shadows, but they're coordinating, moving together. Jesus Christ, okay, listen to me. Get to the most defensible room in the house. Barricade yourself in. We're coming as fast as we can. The line went dead. I grabbed the shotgun, extra ammunition, and my rifle. Moved to the bathroom in the center of the house. No windows. Solid door. I shoved the sink cabinet against the door, then sat with my back to the wall, guns ready. The house was silent. Too silent. Then I heard it. Footsteps on the roof. Heavy, deliberate. Something was up there, walking across the shingles. More sounds, scratching at the windows. The back door rattling in its frame. They were testing the house, looking for a way in. Glass shattered in the kitchen. I heard the thud of something landing inside, then the scrape of claws on linoleum. They were in the house. I raised the shotgun, aiming at the bathroom door. My hands were steady, but my heart was hammering. I could hear them moving through the house, knocking things over, searching. The bathroom door shook. Something was on the other side, pushing against it. The cabinet I'd used as a barricade scraped across the floor, moving inch by inch. I fired through the door. The shotgun blast punched a hole through the wood. I heard a roar of pain, then the pressure on the door stopped, but only for a moment. The door exploded inward. Wood and metal flew everywhere as a massive clawed hand tore through it. I fired again, then again, pumping the shotgun as fast as I could. The creature pushed through, and I got my first clear look at it. It wasn't the same one we'd killed. This one was larger, its fur darker, almost black. The eyes burned with that same yellow light, but there was something else there too. Intelligence. Purpose. It lunged at me. I dropped the shotgun, grabbed my rifle, and fired point blank into its chest. The bullet tore through, and the creature stumbled backward into the hallway. But 2 more were already pushing through behind it. I was out of time, out of room to maneuver. I fired until the rifle clicked empty, then drew my pistol. The creatures kept coming, taking bullets like they were nothing more than bee stings. One of them grabbed my arm, and I felt bones crack under the pressure of its grip. I screamed, shoved the pistol under its jaw, and pulled the trigger. The top of its skull exploded. It dropped, and I kicked free, scrambling over its body into the hallway. The house was destroyed. Furniture overturned, walls gouged and torn. And everywhere, those massive shapes moving through the darkness. I ran for the front door, but another creature cut me off. This one was smaller, leaner, but just as fast. It tackled me, and we went down together. Its jaws snapped inches from my face. I could smell its breath, hot and rancid. Could see every tooth in its mouth as it tried to bite down on my throat. I got my arm up just in time. Its teeth sank into my forearm instead, grinding against bone. Pain exploded through me, white hot and all-consuming. Then I heard gunfire. Lots of it. The creature jerked, blood spraying from multiple wounds. It released my arm and turned toward the new threat. Hernandez was in the doorway, firing his service weapon as fast as he could pull the trigger. Behind him, Webb and Chen were unloading with rifles. The creature charged them. Hernandez dove to the side, and Webb caught it with a full magazine center mass. It went down hard, twitching, then still. "We need to go!" Hernandez shouted. "Now!" I struggled to my feet, cradling my mangled arm. Chen grabbed me, half carried me toward the door. Outside was chaos. Frank's truck was there, the old man firing through the window at shapes moving in the darkness. Morrison was on the ground, his body torn open, dead eyes staring at nothing. "Get in the truck!" Frank yelled. We ran. Webb laid down covering fire while we moved. I could hear the creatures howling, see their shapes converging from all directions. Chen shoved me into the truck bed. Hernandez and Webb piled in after me. Frank floored it, the truck fishtailing in the dirt as we accelerated away from the house. Something landed in the truck bed with us. One of the creatures, smaller than the others but just as vicious. It swiped at Webb and he went down screaming. I grabbed his rifle with my good hand, jammed it into the creature's stomach, and fired until the magazine was empty. It thrashed, claws raking my chest. Then Chen put her pistol to its head and fired 3 times. It finally went still, and we kicked the body out of the truck. Webb wasn't moving. His throat was torn open, blood pouring out faster than we could stop it. He died before we even made it to the main road. Frank drove straight to the hospital. Didn't stop for lights, didn't slow down. We burst through the emergency room doors, and staff came running. They took Webb's body, tried to save him even though we knew it was too late. Patched up my arm and chest, gave me something for the pain. Hernandez and Chen gave statements to the police, sticking to the bear story even though no one was buying it anymore. By dawn, the news was everywhere. Mass animal attack near Phoenix. Multiple fatalities in wildlife incident. The official story was that a pack of aggressive bears had come down from the mountains, driven by drought and hunger. But I'd seen the truth. We all had. There were more of them. Not just one creature, not 2, a whole pack. And we'd killed 3 at most. The rest were still out there. 2 days later, I was released from the hospital. Frank picked me up. We drove in silence back toward what was left of my farm. The house was a crime scene, yellow tape everywhere. Most of it was uninhabitable anyway. The creatures had torn through walls, destroyed everything. "What are you going to do?" Frank asked. "Leave," I said. "Sell the property, move somewhere else, somewhere far from here. You think that'll help?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. That night, staying at a motel in Phoenix, I couldn't sleep. Every shadow looked like something crouched and waiting. Every sound outside made me reach for a gun I no longer had. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. It was a photo. My new motel. Taken from the parking lot outside. And in the corner of the image, just barely visible in the shadows, were 2 yellow eyes staring directly at the camera. No message, just a photo. I stared at my phone, my blood running cold. They'd followed me. They knew where I was, and they weren't done hunting. This farmer's nightmare on the outskirts of Phoenix is a chilling reminder that some predators never truly die. The hunt continues in the shadows, and those yellow eyes are still watching from the darkness, waiting for their next victim. Like this video if the brutal attack sent chills down your spine. Comment below what terrified you most. The first encounter in the dark, or the revelation that an entire pack was stalking him. Share this with someone who thinks monsters only exist in movies, because what happened on that Arizona farm proves otherwise. And if you dare to keep watching, subscribe to Mr. Midnight Horror and hit the notification bell. Because when terror comes hunting in the night, you'll want to know what's lurking out there before it finds you.